All right, let me get my speaker down here. Welcome in, everybody. It's 9:30 on our Thursday. We are almost to the end of the week. See, this is what I love about the good people of Western New York. All these questions on how Katie's doing. Yeah, I appreciate all of you asking, by the way. She's still off tonight. She's doing all right. You know, I think she's still got some of those concussion kind of symptoms. For folks who weren't on our video last night, my wife Katie went and slipped on the ice and bumped the back of her head. She actually ended up fracturing the skull. She got a little crack in there. So she's at home, resting up. She will be just fine from what we're told. It's just going to take a little bit of time for her to, I guess, basically just get the head to heal a little bit. So lights and sounds are tough for her. So we keep her in a nice quiet room where she can close her eyes and get her rest. That is where she is tonight. But I appreciate all of you asking about that. Hi, Mary. I see Don joining us. Don says it is 8 degrees right now in Hammondsport. And Don, I would believe you. That seems fair. Monica from Palmyra says hello. Jarrett, you know, I don't know what I did today, but I can scroll back in these comments now. Life is good. I don't know if I fixed something or this is just circumstance. Hey, Caleb. Yeah, Webster, excuse me. You've got multiple rounds of snow headed your way, probably even some later on tonight. So we'll single the Webster area out here in a moment. Hi, Tammy, Samantha, Mary Rose. Lovely name, Mary Rose. I see Jim, Tracy. We got Carrie says hello from Gates. Mary looking to learn what we have coming to Batavia. We'll be able to hook you up with that. See Michelle, Althea, one of our regulars. Jacob, and Mary says 14 degrees right now in Batavia. All right, so here's our radar. Find me where the lake effect is. I don't really see a whole lot. Yeah, I think we're going to have to give this some additional time. So here's what's going on right now. And understand, we do have more lake effect that is on its way. So we've been dealing with a wind flow here through most of the afternoon. That's been kind of like this. It has ushered in some relatively drier air over the last couple of hours. We had a lovely sunset through the area. We're transitioning now to what is going to be more of an east-northeast flow that's going to end up looking something more like that. And I realize that I have now created almost a perfect tic-tac-toe board. If only I had somebody here to play with me. Just my Madden Skadoodle tool makes me do whatever we want. Let me clear this out. We have noticed a few echoes that have showed up on parts of Monroe County here. They're very light, but they're subtle signs that things are trying to gel and trying to get more organized. Now, you'll note our high-res models say there should be snow out there right now. Anybody who knows lake effect knows that these models don't really do great with lake effect. Sometimes the best way to go about doing this is just look out the window. What is radar looking like? And then test that with the flow and knowing how things are going to change over the next few hours. And I'm still a buyer and a believer here that very much like what we had last night and into this morning, there's going to be some narrow corridors of a spray of snow showers with that flow from the northeast. Who gets what out of that? That's the fun with lake effect. I have a snow map that we'll show you here in just a bit, but I'm going to throw a couple of caveats out there with this because there's just so much variability and wiggle room here for a multitude of options. That lake effect band, and that's what you're looking at. How weird is that to see a band going that way? You know, 90% of the time, our lake effect flow falls somewhere from this direction to, you know, kind of that direction, not due east to west. So very unique in that regard. We could still have some snow showers around progressively into the afternoon, even into late Friday, but by and large, we'll start to shut things down, even though that air is very cold. So let's talk accumulations here, because this morning was an absolute headache through parts of the area. I know the 104 corridor was an absolute mess, both Wayne County and Monroe County. I live up in Charlotte, closer toward the lakeside there, and I shoveled about 6 or 7 inches of partly cloudy off of my car getting into work earlier this afternoon. It was arguably the most snow that we have had up there in a 12-hour period all winter long. It was not that way everywhere, and this is what that zip code snow ends up being. So the map that we've got, that light blue is 1 to 3 inches. We've got a dark blue that is 3 to 6. Now note how the words I've put under that. Where squalls persist. I'm a believer that in this particular map, more than likely the vast majority of you are going to fall on the lower end of that spectrum where squalls persist. Could somebody end up sneaking in another 6 inches of snow by tomorrow morning? Yes, it is plausible. I think that those numbers are going to be few and far between, but I want to highlight that zone, that corridor that exists from roughly Lyndonville to Albion to Rochester to Walworth, Lyons, Wolcott, everybody along and north of that line, where those squalls decide to set up. Very high snow ratios out of that, high fluff factor. It will accumulate quickly. Could there be hiccups tomorrow morning for the commute? Yes, that's a distinct possibility. Probably very similar locations to what we had this morning. But again, highly variable. And some of this is going to just end up being luck of the draw with where you're going and whether you run into a few of those snow showers from time to time. That's going to be about it for a little bit in terms of the lake effect concerns. From there, we're going to turn our attention to more system snow. This is the stuff that will provide more widespread snow where everybody gets it instead of just a select few. Look ahead to the weekend. I think most of the daytime on Saturday is going to be quiet. By the time the sun goes down, some light snow is already building from the west. This is going to be one of 3 weather makers headed our way. And they may be coming increasingly potent with each successor one moving forward here, which we'll talk about in a minute. But light to moderate snow will overspread the area. Saturday night going into the day on Sunday, we're going to highlight an area kind of like this. And you still see the wind flow there with that northeast overall direction. There will be some lake enhancement that will add some additional banding and strengthening of the snow downwind of Lake Ontario, very common in setups like this. So that'll probably enhance some of the snowfall totals there before this shuts off going into Sunday morning. The rest of the day Sunday should start to quiet down too. Now this is the next snow map. So we showed you the one here from tonight through tomorrow. This one is for late Saturday into early Sunday. This is on top of any of that lake effect that we get. I think a good rule of thumb with this, if you live south of the thruway, you're likely looking at 1 to 3 inches. If you live north of the thruway, I think your sweet spot ends up being closer to the 3 to 5 inch ballpark. Still a manageable snow, definitely a shovelable snow for some of you. The plows might even need to come out if you end up closer toward that 5-inch mark. But it's on the weekend, and a lot of this you will be sleeping through because it will mainly end going into early Sunday. That was one of the 3. Let's give you a quick snapshot here, and I'm sorry if I'm distracted. I've got the NAM model coming in on one of my other computers here. I'm just trying to get a peek for this Saturday night Sunday deal. Make sure no surprises in there. All right, that still looks good. So let's talk storm number 2 on Tuesday. And before we get into the meat and potatoes of this, I want to caution you with the realities of what we are discussing here. At WROC, we provide you with an 8-day forecast. You know, every station does their own. There's 7 days, 8 days, 10 days. I think AccuWeather does like a 45-day, something crazy like that. So we want to give you a reasonable look at what we are seeing over the course of 8 days. Within that, we have to have a reasonable understanding of how meteorology works. The accuracy, the forecast details become increasingly more blurry the farther we go down that chain. Days 1 and 2, good stuff. 3 and 4, you know, we're pretty confident in it, but it's a little tougher out there. Once you go beyond 4 or 5 days, things change and they change quickly. So we always have to provide that grain of salt when we start talking about any kind of semblance of a detailed forecast here. What I want to do here is provide you with something almost of a heads up of the prospect of what could be a trio of rather significant storm systems. But whether they end up playing out that way is something that we still need time to be able to figure out. And that could go both ways. Not only that, oh, this is a bust and we don't end up getting snow on Tuesday and we said we would. It may end up being a lot more snow than what we are arguing for right now. So I just want to be clear on that. We go out 8 days. I want to show you what we are seeing because we see at least the potential for 3 pretty good wallops of wintry weather. We've covered the first one. Here's number 2. This is a snapshot of the Euro model. This is the 12Z run from what filtered in earlier this afternoon. Another one will come in after midnight tonight during the heart of the day on Tuesday. And what you're looking at here is a weakening low here, and then we have a strengthening low here. Pretty classic setup. And that would provide us what would be, and when I say significant, that would be the idea that you may end up with 6 inches or more of snow. That's plausible. Again, it's Tuesday. It's Thursday night right now. We're not Monday trying to forecast this, so a lot of things that still need to be ironed out, all the cogs in that machine. But as we see it right now, that looks like a relatively decent potential to be an impactful weather maker on Tuesday. And right now that looks largely in the form of snow. Storm number 3 follows on the heels Thursday into Friday, somewhere in that general time frame. And that's kind of the sweeper. And when I say the sweeper, this pattern that is spitting out several of these systems, inevitably you will get one that's kind of like the big kahuna, and it ends up clearing that pattern out. You know, clean slate, that'll be the last game in town kind of a deal. And I think that is storm number 3, which is often the more potent storm. But the one, because we're farther out in time, the one that we have the lowest confidence on. So storm 1, high confidence. Number 2, medium. Storm 3, low confidence. The models are pretty aggressive on this, though, right now. For being still a week out, I will say that it is remarkable the consistency that we have seen in the idea of a significant storm system working in. Storm tracks to the west. We end up with a wintry mix, some sleet, some freezing rain. Heck, we might even go all rain. Storm goes to the east. You stay all snow. It could be a big deal. But that, too, has the capability of being significant. So 1, 2, 3, the weekend one, shovelable for a lot of you. Remember that 3 to 5 for the Rochester area. Storm number 2 has the potential of being a 6-inch plus producer for parts of the area. Storm number 3 has that potential too, but storm 3 also looks like it might have more wiggle room for maybe some wintry mix issues getting injected in that. But again, it would not be prudent or wise of me to try to get too specific or too detailed. That's just not how weather works when we're that far out. We're looking at the pattern, we're looking at the idea of a storm developing in that time frame, but we will button down some of the nuances there as we start to get closer. But those two especially, Tuesday and then the one after that next week, those appear to have more of a lean of having more bite than the moderate one that we've got going into the weekend. There's your 8 day. So we've kind of covered our bases here with regard to the snow. Temperature-wise, it doesn't get a whole lot better. It's cold. You're going to have a couple of days, especially toward the end of next week, depending on the track of those lows, where you might get some relatively milder air in there. But boy, that is, relative is the operative word out of this. We still do not forecast any temperatures that will break freezing over the course of the next 8 days. Lindsay, yes, it could. Could very well be interesting. Sherry says, those of us in the western southern tier have had enough. Oh, boy. Yeah, you are not done yet, Sherry. This is nice. I can actually scroll through some of these comments. Hold on, let me read some of these. You know, the funny thing, James, is it feels like it has snowed pretty much every day. It feels like we've had some partial sunshine each of these days, too. I can't even count how many sunsets I've been able to show on the 5 and the 6 o'clock news, it feels like, this week. Carlos asking, did Niagara Falls get lake effect snow yet? I want to say, Carlos, we had another east to west lake effect event. It's been a few weeks, might have been a month ago, and if memory serves, that band did flutter around into a Niagara Falls. So yeah, I do believe they have had that already this season. Hola from Hilton. Tammy, I see you there. Hey, Barb. "9 degrees in Akron, New York. Goodness gracious." How's Bolt liking this cold weather pattern? He is loving this cold weather pattern. This morning snow especially, the 6 to 7 inches of fluff, you know, it got up pretty good, pretty high on his legs, and he was a fan of that. I think he's going to be a fan of the pattern here for the next week, too. By the way, Rochester's now number 9 in the Golden Snow Globe contest. Remember, that's leaders in total snowfall on the season, with a population of at least 100,000 people, which means you don't have Binghamton included in that. Our local contest in New York, Binghamton is still the winner. And I'm looking at the numbers thinking to myself, let's reassess this by the end of Friday of next week. What do you think the odds are that Rochester is still in 9th place after the forecast I just showed you? I think we're going to be climbing that ladder. We may be climbing way up that ladder. All right, that's what I got for you tonight, guys. Hope it helped a little bit. Hope we had some clarity to a really busy forecast. The best advice I can give you is just make sure you're checking back on the latest. You know, I understand that when we talk about a forecast 8 days out, there's an inherent level of being vague and being generic, and we don't do that because that's a cop-out. We don't do it because it's the easy way out or we're lazy. we do it just because we know better that that's how this works. We will build toward a more detailed forecast with how this goes. But as we see it now, there's definitely three systems out there. First one is manageable this weekend, but the next two, if they end up tracking in just that right way, those could be pretty significant winter weather makers around here. So we will obviously be watching very, very closely here in the weather department. And we hope you're watching too. I'll be back on TV with Adam and Maureen at 11 o'clock tonight. If you're still awake, I'd love to see you then.